All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to day number 26 of our Rankin Technical College online AWD1100 C# programming class. We're going to start today by having me go over practice 8.3, which didn't work last time totally, but does now, and 8.4, which now works as well. Then I'm going to go over two problems from the assigned homework. All right, I'm not going to save those to a GitHub repo, but you will be responsible for working and creating all of the problems on the homework. Just so you see this, if I bring up the homework here, I've got it here someplace, there it is. All right, I'm going to do number 2, and I'm going to do it twice. I'm going to do it first without using arrays, and then I'm going to do it using arrays, so you can see the difference. And I'm also going to do number 3. All right. And number 3 is almost remarkably similar to one of the two problems that will be on your test next week. So you may want to code along, or if you're watching this later, you may want to go back to this video, etc. All right. After we do that, the rest of the period will be lab. So if we're done by 10 o'clock, fine, then we're done by 10 o'clock. Then the rest of the period will be lab. Tomorrow will be lab for the entire period. I spent much of last night grading. I spent much of this morning grading. I've been here at Rankin since 5:30, and from 5:30 to 7:30, I did nothing but grade. To my knowledge, everyone's grade now is up to date. Now, with that said, if you look at the grade sheet, you say, well, I did this and you didn't grade it. Then email me, let me know. All right, send me an invite if necessary, etc. All right. If you are behind in the class, so if you are running below a C, then today I will be sending out another early alert message on you. All right. The good news is, like I said, as far as I know, I'm up to date in grading. So as people start to turn in their chapter 8 homework, written tests, and etc., I hopefully will be able to grade those almost right away. Now, you already saw this. Now it's been over a week since we took our chapter 6 and 7 hands-on test. There are still people in this class who have not turned in that test. You can still turn it in. You won't get full credit, but you'll get partial credit. Same thing with the chapter 6 and 7 homework and written tests. They were due last Sunday. I will still accept them, but you will get a grade reduction. All right. Your completed chapter 8 homework, since we're off on Monday of next week, there's no class because of President's Day, so Rankin is closed. So rather than having your chapter 8 homework and written test due by midnight Sunday, they're now going to be due by midnight on Monday. All right, so we will not reconvene here after today because tomorrow's a lab. So we will not reconvene in class after today until Tuesday. Tuesday by 7 a.m., you know the drill by now. I will have emailed you the hands-on test, C# pot number 4 for Murach chapter 8 on arrays and collections. It'll be emailed to you by 7. I will go over the test between 8:05 and about 8:20. You will have the rest of the class period to work on it, of course, and it'll be due by midnight that night. All right, again, two more things. As you can see in that last bullet, there will be no class this Monday. Again, Rankin is closed in observance of President's Day. All right, that's the first thing. All right, and the second thing is starting next week, Wednesday and Thursday of next week, we'll go over chapters 9, 10, and 11. Probably we'll still make Friday a lab day. So Wednesday, I'll be doing a lot of lecturing on 9, 10, and 11. Thursday, we'll do a bunch of stuff probably, and I haven't done it yet, but probably we will do 9, 1, 9-2, 10-1, 10-2, and 10-3. All right, so we'll probably end up doing all of those. I think that's it for there. There'll be no work that's due for chapter 11 except the written test. So you'll have a written test for 9, 10, and 11. You'll have some kind of a homework that I'll be preparing this weekend. And again, I will go over this stuff, okay? We will bleed into the week of the 26th. We will work on 1 or 2 days. We will work on chapters 9, 10, and 11, and probably your test on it will be like that Wednesday or so. We'll see as we get to that point. All right. I do want you to know that one thing I did this morning, all right, because I was having nothing but problems yesterday playing with my GitHub repos. So one thing that I did do was I made a new repo that's just called Chapter 8 Practice. All right, and that one has on it all 4 of the practice exercises. These are my original ones, so they weren't done exactly. 8.3 isn't going to be done exactly like I'm going to show you right now, but 8.4 is the one I'm going to show you. It works. So I want to take literally about somewhere around 10, 15 minutes or so to go over 8.3 and to go over 8.4. And again, for whomever just joined, just so you're aware of this, I mentioned this earlier, I have graded everything. If you look at your grade sheet and you say, no, you didn't, then email me, let me know where the GitHub repo is, or email me the homework. And if you give me a GitHub repo, make sure that if necessary, you send me an invite. All right. So to start with, here was 8.3. We worked on this one yesterday. I literally have made 2 changes to this one. I did not use the string dot split. I didn't think that was a good usage here. Instead, what I used was the string dot to char array, okay? And so what did I do? Well, originally I had A count, B count, C count, D count, etc. I had 26 of these right here. They were all global. But what I did was I put them in here and made them local variables. All right, because you should really strive to have as few global variables as possible. Global constants are okay. By and large, global variables are a no-no. So I did make the array global, but that was it. All right, so inside of here, there's my A count through Z count, and this is the new thing right here. That is the only new line other than moving code around. Previously, I had done this a little bit differently, but what this does is it takes whatever input, all right, I put into that text box, which is a string, and it converts it into a character array. So in other words, if I come out here, and I'm just going to go, it doesn't matter where I go, but I'll go here to CNN.com. All right. And I'm going to grab this. CNN goes aboard Navy ships. All right. Just so I've got something. All right. So I'm going to grab this paragraph right here, copy it to the clipboard. Now I'm going to run this program here. And for my input, I'm going to paste that information in. So there it is. So when I run letter search, you can see what's in here. All right. As I mentioned yesterday, and I'll say it again, a good first test of this would have been A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. And we can put some in caps, it doesn't matter. Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Unless I missed a letter, and I don't think I did, these should all be at 1 for the counter. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. They're all there. So if I click letter search, okay, well, I don't know why it's giving me S and T, so I'm going to go back and look at that. All right, we got S, T, U. So let's go down and look in here. Now it says S count. I don't know why it wouldn't be counting that, but it's not. I can't believe there aren't any S's in there, or T's, or U's, or V's. All right, it's just got the first one, so something is hosed in here. But the point is, it actually was written correctly. So let's see. S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. You won't have anything at all like this. There'll be nothing at all like this on your test. All right. Okay, but I will mention one thing about that, and that is yesterday, like I said, I had mucho problems. So what I did, all right, if I go back here and I go to my GitHub repo, all right, and I put in here, let's just say practice. All right, you'll notice there's quite a few of them, and this is the original one, okay, that I put out there yesterday, and it should have working copies of 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4. All right. Okay. The other one that we worked on yesterday, and it was kind of problematic, was this one right here. All right. And it's going to work in just a second. It really and truly is. Let me get that text out of there. I don't know what it's doing there, but now it's gone. All right. So to show you how this one works, I'm going to run it. So I come in there and I'm going to add about 3 people. Now, if you notice, when the program starts, it shows this. And it's just a little, I called it a message, a user message. And it says, please read this carefully. It says to update or delete an existing record, click on that record's first name to activate it. All right, but you'll notice right now, the update and delete buttons, they are disabled. Why? Because we have no people in our list. So let's put a couple in there. We'll put in John and Jane Doe. So this will be Jane Doe, and her salary will be, I'm just making that up, and her department will be, let's say, accounting. All right. Now, by default, unless told otherwise, my default button for accept is the add. So I can either hit enter or click this, and there's Jane Doe. All right. Now, if I discover I put something in there wrong on her and I click, there it comes up. All right. So let's say it was really Janet, and it was Janet Dawson, just making all this up. And we'll say that she's 67890 is her salary, and she's not in accounting, she's in receiving. Okay. Now, if I click add right now, it's going to add a new record with all that stuff in there. If I want to modify this record, I have to click the update button. So notice it's Jane Doe 34567 in accounting. When I click update, it's now Janet Dawson 67890 in receiving. So that appears to work. Let's add another person. This will be John Doe 45678. And let's say that he's in web. All right. Now, there's nothing to update, so that's not going to make sense. But if I click add, he's now in there. All right. And if John is now, I could click on his first name. There he's back. So let's say that it's Jonathan. All right. And let's say he's also Jonathan Dawson. We'll leave this the same and we'll change this to web programming. You have to realize if I click add, the system thinks it's a new record. So if I click add, now I've got that. If I don't want that, I click on here and I choose delete. And it says, do you really want to delete this employee? Yes, I do. And they're gone. All right. I don't know why when I was working on it yesterday, it didn't work with you. I don't know. So I brought a working version up because to me it looked the same as the other one. I want to take literally about 5 minutes to go over this. All right. Now with this one, the only constants are the minimum and the maximum salary. We have 4 class variables. The first one is a string list of first names. The second one is a string list of last names. The third one is a decimal list of salaries. The fourth one is a string list of departments. So we have a separate list for each one of these 4 inputs that we have. All right. In here is where we set up the list view. We went over the list view yesterday a little bit. All right. So this was basically here setting it up. And this was adding the columns to it. And we want each column to take up approximately a quarter of the screen, which is why I made them 250. Now, if we go and run this and we shrink our screen size, so if we shrink this, it's not going to work very well. All right. So in other words, if you tried running this on your phone, it might be a little problematic to look at. We'll handle stuff like that at another time. All right, but I just wanted you to know that. Then this was what happens when we click the add button. When we click add or when we click update, either one of those two, we have to call validate employee. As you can see, validate employee returns a Boolean that we're calling keep going. And validate employee, we put it into a try catch. We first make sure that there is something in the first name. If there's not, we throw an argument exception. Then we make sure that there's something in the last name. If there's not, we throw an argument null exception. I just went back and did them in order. If there's nothing in the salary, we throw an argument null exception. So if we get down to this point, we had something in the first name text box, we had something in the last name text box, and we have something in the salary text box. So we attempt to take that something and parse it into a decimal and put the result into salary. If that parsing fails, we throw a format exception and we'll be done. If we get down to here, we put a number in there. So here we're validating that it's between our 2 constant values, our minimum salary, which is 0, and our maximum salary, which is 1 million. So if we put in a negative number or a number greater than 1 million, we're going to throw an argument out of range exception and be done. Finally, we check to make sure that there's something in the department text box. If there's not, we again throw an argument null exception. If we get down to here, where you see it in blue, that means that none of these ifs were true. And what that means is we had something, some kind of a value. I don't care if it's numbers, names, letters, whatever, but we put something inside of the first name text box, the last name text box, and the department text box. In addition, we put a number in the salary text box, which is within our range of 0 through 1 million. All right. And with all of these exceptions, if it was an argument null, we just said the field can't be empty, and we gave it an argument null exception. If it was a format, all right, then we said the field must contain a valid salary, all right, and I put in here 0 to 1 million, and it was a format exception. I put the same message in here, field must contain a valid salary, all right, with an argument out of range exception. I could have put a different one in here. I could have said field must be a decimal or whatever. All right, and with all of these, notice return false, return false, return false. That's a return true. So that's going to go back and with both the add and with the update, Okay, with both of them, it's going to do this. And it's going to check validate employee. If it works, in this case, we'll call add new employee. And in this case, if it works, we'll call update existing employee. All right. So for adding the new employee, this is how I did it. Okay. And we grabbed everything in here. It probably would have been cleaner to put a dot trim in each one of these. All right. It seemed to work fine without it, but you still are going to occasionally have your goofy person who says, I don't really want to answer any of this stuff. I'll just hit the space bar a couple times. All right. And here we're just adding it to the list. So add text box values to the associated list. All right. We clear the form and we update our list view. Okay. Then for update, the first thing I checked in here, and I don't even know if I have to do this or not, but I said, if there's no names, there's nothing to update. Technically, that button should be off anyway. But remember that when you run this, all right, when you run this, and these are off, okay? But as soon as I add an employee, all right, as soon as I add an employee, now they're no longer disabled. All right. And if I come in here and let's just delete it. All right. They went back to being disabled. All right. And that should be the way that it works. But just to be safe, I put that in there. So the update, if for some reason it's still on and there's nothing in the list, I say there's no employee to update, the list is empty, and we set the enable to false. Otherwise, we make sure it's true. We again call validate employee, and now we're calling update list existing employee. And this is the same as what we did yesterday. Again, I could come in here and do the dot trim, etc. We could come in here to be clean, etc. That probably would have been a better way to do this. This one, I can still put a dot trim in there. Okay. And here I can put a dot trim. All right. Finally, we get up to the delete. Well, here again, we called clear and we updated the list view. And there was something missing before, and I'm going to show you what it is. And I think that's why this didn't work. So now we go to the delete. And in the same way, if for some reason the list is empty and the delete button has been enabled, all right, we disable it by saying no employee to delete, list is empty. Previously, we said no employee to update, list is empty. So I'm using a very similar message. If we get down to here, we want to make sure that button is enabled and we set delete existing employee. All right, to do that, I came in here. This is whatever one I just clicked the first name on. That's what this is. And I asked the user, I give them one last chance to back out. Do you really want to delete that employee? And if they click the yes button, they're not asked, are you really, really sure? We just remove them. All right. So we do the remove at. And then again, we call clear form and update list view. All right. The validate we've already gone over. So let me show you. I think it's going to be next here. This has not changed either. This is the update list view. We clear it. We run through it. We add all the employees to it. All right. If the count is greater than 0, we make sure that the update and delete buttons are enabled. If the count is 0, it should never be less. But if it's 0, we disable the buttons. What I did not have yesterday, and I think it's way down on the bottom, it's right here. We did not have this list view dot selected index changed. This is going to be called anytime you make a change to the list view. And I just called it list view changed because it's the list view. And basically what it's doing in here is it's grabbing everything that we had in here, and it is copying it to the text box. So whatever first name we have clicked on, it's now going to fill that up in our text boxes. We weren't doing that yesterday. That's one of the reasons the program was incomplete. Also, in the load event, I call this user message, which just says, to update or delete an existing record, click on that record's first name to activate. And that runs as soon as the program runs. Here is our disable, which sets both update and delete to false. And this is enable, which sets update and delete both to true. All right, it works. So I didn't go jacking with it at all. Because like I said, it works. All right. Okay, so that's those two. So now what I'd like to do, I'm not gonna, well, I guess I can save, it's not gonna matter. I just put those comments in there. All right, so now what I'd like to do is to go back again, take a quick look at two of the problems, okay? Two of the problems that are on your homework. Those being number 2, which we'll go to in just a minute, and number 3. And again, I can't give you more hints other than to say half of the test is very similar to the problem number 3. I am not saving these in a GitHub repo. Everything else is out there in a GitHub repo. This will not be. So I'm just going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it here homework CH8. All right. Now I'm going to start up Visual Studio. And again, I'm going to run this thing twice, this first problem twice, and I'm going to do it first without using any arrays, and then I'm going to go back and use arrays so you can see the difference. All right, so it'll be a Windows Forms app, and I'm just going to call this, I don't know, HWCH8-2A, because I'm going to do a 2A and a 2B. All right. So this is the first one. It's going to be put in our homework CH8. And I'll just call it just HWCH8. All right, so click create. There it is. I'm going to immediately come in. This is a thing on a resort, I think it was called. All right, so I'm going to change the name of my form right away to FRM Resort. I will tell you, when you take the test next week, you will be asked to rename the form. You will be asked to set a cancel button. You will be asked to set an accept button. You will be asked to set a tab order. That is worth approximately for those 8 to 10 points. If you don't do those, you're losing 8 to 10 points. If you don't do it on either one of them, you've lost 16 points, which has already got you down into low B range. So please make sure you do that. All right. Yes, I want to change that. I'm going to change my text in here. It's going to say homework chapter 8 resort number 1, because I'm going to do 2 resort ones. All right, and I will immediately also come in here and set this to center screen. All right, I'm going to do this differently than the one I'm working with, and I'll explain to you why in just a bit. But the first thing I'm going to do is come in here, and I'm going to change the background color, as I always do, of my form. All right, grab the purple here, that's fine. All right, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start by making four different labels. All right. So there's my first label. As always, I like to make my labels a different color. That's pretty dark. So I'm going to change the text on that label to white. All right. And I'm going to set auto size to false. So I can stretch that. All right, and I'm going to have 4 of these. That's not perfect, but it doesn't look too bad either. All right, that's the first thing. Then I'm going to add 4 text boxes. The only one I'm going to put anything into is this one. So the other ones, I could make labels, but I'm just going to make them read-only text boxes. All right, and finally, I'm going to set up 3 buttons. This is very similar to the way we've been doing it virtually all semester. So I'm going to have here all right, and I'll just line them up like this. All right, so that's my interface. I'm going to move this down a little bit. That doesn't look too terrible. So there's my interface. I'm going to immediately highlight everything as I always do, change the size of my font, make it bold and make it Arial. That's pretty good. I'm also going to take these 4 text boxes that are right here, and I'm going to center them. All right, and I'm going to take my 4, those are the labels, take my 4 text boxes and center those. All right, now I think at least I'm ready to get going. All right, so this one right here is going to be the number of nights stayed. In fact, let's lock the interface into place. All right, so I'm going to call this one LBL nights stayed. So let's see. All right, and we'll make it nights stayed here. Hopefully this is going to be big enough. Okay, it is, luckily. So this will become, the text box will be TXT nights stayed. All right. This I just called, this is the number of nights that you stayed, but I put this one into where it says 1 or 2, 3 or 4, 5 to 7, etc. All right. So I'm going to call this one LBL nights, but I'm going to call it STR because it's going to just be a string. All right. And this one just, I'm going to be called, that's night stayed. So this is going to be night string. Okay. In fact, I'm going to change the name of that to night string up there as well. Night's string. All right. I want to put an S on that too. All right. This then will be TXT night's string. All right. This will be the nightly cost. So it'll be LBL nightly cost. And the text for it will be nightly cost. This will be TXT nightly cost. And finally, this will be total cost. So this will be LBL total cost. And this will be TXT total cost. All right, these will be our typical ones. So this will be BTN calculate. And we'll put an ampersand before the C like we've been doing most of the semester. Here we go. This one will be clear. And finally, this one will be exit. All right, let's double check and make sure that I have renamed everything. And I do that by clicking here. And as far as I can tell, I have. Okay, so that's done. All right, let's set our accept and cancel buttons. We've already set the start position to center screen, so let's set our tab order. And that will be 0. These are going to be read only in just a minute. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And another view tab order. And I'm going to take these, like I said, and make each of them read only. All right, we'll leave them gray. I don't really care. This will be our calculate that we're going to do in a moment. This will be our clear. This will be our exit. So for the exit, let's just go in and grab that. All right, so that's done. For the clear, we will, as we have been doing, call clear form. All right, we want to clear out 4 text boxes. And finally, the total cost. And TXT nightly night state is the one I want. Dot focus. All right, so again, our if we run this now, all right, this doesn't work yet, but I can put something in here, clear it. Yeah, that worked. If I put something in here and move to another one, hit clear. Yeah, that appears to be working. And our exit button also is working. All right, so let's go back to the homework page here and see what this says. All right, I'm going to grab every bit of this, copy it in, and then we'll take a look at it. All right. So write a C# GUI application that calculates the cost of resort based on the number of nights you stay there. Okay. And this is basically the way that it's set up. So as it says here, if we stay 1 or 2 nights, it's $200 a night. Okay, nothing big there. All right, if we stay 3 or 4 nights, it's $180 a night. So the longer you stay, the cheaper your nightly rate will be. All right, 5 to 7, that'll be $160 a night. And 8 or more, that will be, just change that. That'll be 145 per night. Okay, that is, I mean, like I said, in my opinion, at least, not very hard. And hopefully, at least to everybody, these requirements make sense. All right. So as we come in here, okay, let's start. Like I said, let's start writing the program. Okay. And I'm clearing out here what I've got on my other machine. So give me a second. There we go. Okay. All right. So the first thing, this one has no arrays in it. I'm saying this again. This has no arrays in it. All right. So I'm going to come in and basically I'm going to replace what we'll put into arrays in just a minute. I'm going to replace that with constants. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing this. This should work without any problem. But remember that constants, you cannot change their value. I want to say that again. You cannot change the value of a constant. You can change what goes inside of an array. So of course, arrays will be much more versatile than constants will be. All right. It said if you stayed 1 or 2 nights, that it was 200. 3 or 4 nights, then it was 180. All right. 5 to 7 nights. That was 160. And finally, 8 or more nights, and that was 145. All right. Now I'm also going to go in and add 4 different string constants. All right. I'm not going to, like I said, this stuff is going to be replaced with arrays in the next iteration of this. So const string, and I'm just going to call this 1 or 2. And I'm going to set that equal to 1 or 2, just like that. Oops, what I did there. Okay. And then let's do the other 3. So const string 3 or 4, and we'll set that equal to 3 or 4. Another const string 5 or 6. In fact, I think it was 5 to 7. 5 to 7, and that'll be equal to 5 to 7. And finally, 8 or more, and that'll be equal to just that. 8 or more. Now, I do want to just show you something on here quickly. It's not a big thing, but just so you're aware of it. All right. These first 4 constants that you see, we're going to multiply the number of nights that they stayed by that associated constant, and that's going to be this. All right. The nightly cost right here, that nightly cost that you see right there, that is this right there. And that night's string that I just put in there, that is going to be this here. So that's what we're putting in there, just so you're aware of that. All right. So we've got the clear done. We've got the calculate done. So let's do, I'm sorry, we got the clear and the exit done. Let's do the calculate. So I call this determine. We can call it whatever we want. All right. But I call this determine nights stayed. Determine night state. Of course, I get an error because it has not been written yet. And when I did this, I got this thing in a try-catch block. try catch, or using the generic validation methods aren't going away. Now that you validate, it's going to be assumed that you're going to validate. All right. So I just made a local variable called nights that I set equal to 0. And then I have my try catch block. And I'm going to catch a couple things in here. A format exception, all right, and an out of range exception. So let me just put in all the code here. There's not very much. I'm going to say nights equal convert dot to int 32 txt nights state it was dot text dot trim. All right, so I immediately am coming in there and trying to convert this. All right. If that fails, I'm going to get some kind of a format exception. Okay. Now, if the nights are less than or equal to 0, well, then I'm going to throw a new argument out of range exception. This has to be where it is making sense to you. Finally, I'm going to call this is going to give me an error, determine bill. And I'm going to pass the number of nights that I stayed into there. So let me just write down here. Let me just do this quickly. I'm not going to put any code in it yet, but private void determine bill, and I'll have to put in there int nights, just so I don't have any errors. So what this says here, this is a local variable. I'm setting it right here. This will be the number of nights you stayed. So what I'm attempting to do there is to take whatever we put in here, that first text box, and convert it into an integer. All right. If it doesn't work, because it's non-numeric, it's going to come down into one of these catches that we're about to put in. If it does work, we put in a number, but that number has to be positive. So if that number is negative, we throw a different kind of exception. So here, if we put something that was non-numeric, the system throws an exception. Here we're checking, and if it's out of range, we're throwing the exception. If everything was cool, we're just going to then determine the bill because we put in a positive number. So let's put in our catches. And we have to catch two things. First, a format exception, which I always call FE. All right. And then we'll call our show error message because it is an error. And I'll put in first, again, the system message. All right. And then, as I have been doing, I'm going to set a couple blank lines. All right. And then I'm going to add to that nights. Oops, not that. I'm sorry. Nights, get rid of that. Nights must be an integer. Nights must be an integer. All right. Then we need our title. And this is a format exception. So that's what I'm going to call it. All right. So that'll handle it. And if that happened, what do we want to do? Well, we want to clear the form. All right. And when we clear the form, the only thing we're doing what we're doing in clear form is clearing all that stuff. All right. So we're clearing the form, and then we'll set the focus. In fact, I don't think we even have to. We're already setting the focus to night state. I had done it here, but it's redundant to do it again. Doesn't hurt, but I don't have to do it. All right. But I'm done. So I'm going to return. All right. So that'll work for the format exception. We'll check that out in just a minute. Now I'm going to have the argument out of range exception, which again I call AOORE for argument out of range exception. All right, so the nights must be an integer. Now I'm going to say between, or let's just say greater than 0. to let them know that. And this will be, again, an argument out of range exception. Now, we're not done yet, but we should be able to test that stuff if I don't have any errors. So let's run it. If it's blank, it's throwing the format exception like it should, and it says that's the system message, and there's my message. All right, and there's the cursor back there. If we put in a negative number, now we're throwing an argument out of range exception. All right, and we're telling it must be a number greater than 0. Now, if we put in a valid number, nothing's happening because we haven't done that yet. So now we are ready to go in and write this routine for determining the bill. All right, and it's not that difficult. Hopefully, at least, when I put this in, you'll find it to be at least fairly straightforward. So I'm going to have a decimal here that's going to be called nightly cost that I'll set equal to 0.00m, and another one that's called total cost, which again, I will set equal to 0.00m. Now, that nightly cost, I'm going to grab from one of these. Our total cost will be the number of nights we stayed times this. So if we stayed 3 nights, it'll be 3 times 180. So 540 will be our total cost. All right. And again, I'm just hoping at least that makes sense to everyone. So I'm going to do a switch. I could do an if, but I'm going to do a switch on the number of nights. All right. And if it's a 1 or a 2, so a case 1 or a case 2, why? Because both of those are this, 1 or 2 nights. It's this and it's this. All right. So if that's the case, so to speak, then I'm going to say nightly cost equals 1 or 2 nights. All right. And our nightly, whatever we call that other thing, that we can just set it right here. Okay. I can say txt. In fact, let's not do that. I'm going to create a string here that'll call num nights str. And I'll set that equal to nothing. All right. So this num nights str, that will now be equal to, and that'll be just 1 or 2. What that should be doing here, these 2 lines should be filling in the nightly cost and the night string, those 2. So I should have everything done. I haven't done the math yet to figure out the bill. We'll do that in a minute. I'm getting an error here because it needs the word break on the end. Okay. All right. The next one is 3 or 4. So that'll be 3 or 4 nights. And this will be 3 or 4. All right. So that one's done. The next one is 5 through 7. So we'll need to add one more case. Why? Because I don't want that. All right. Because I need case 5, case 6. All right. And that got screwed up, but we'll fix it there. And we'll have a case 7. All right. So now it'll be 5 to 7 nights. And this will be 5 to 7. All right. And finally, I can put my break here. I'm going to move these over. That's the way they should be. Finally, I can have my default, which is going to be anything more than that. All right. And in my default, I don't need this. I can say nightly cost equals 8 or more nights. All right. And I can say this num night string is equal to 8 or more. All right. Now I got to do one line of math. I need a break here. Okay. So again, if you stayed 1 or 2 nights, it'll be $200 and it'll say 1 or 2 in that thing. If you stay 3 or 4 nights, it's like 180 or whatever, and it'll say that. 5 to 7 will be like 160 and it'll say that. 8 or more is going to be 145 and it'll say that. So I'm done with my switch statement now. So all I have to do is figure out my total cost. So my total cost is going to be equal to the nightly cost, all right, times the number of nights. All right. And I can now say TXT, that nights string, dot text, that's going to be equal to the num nights str, and my TXT total cost dot text, that's going to be equal to total cost dot toString. We'll make it a currency. Or if you'd rather, again, we could come in here and just do this. And do night string there. And do it like that using string interpolation as well. And we'll do it here too. You don't need those parens, I just include them. Now, when we do this, we don't need the toString, but we need a :C to show that it's currency. All right. That should be it. That should be everything. We're going to test it though. So file, save all. Now, if there's nothing in here, again, we get that. You already saw it. If it's negative, again, we get an error. You saw that. All right, so I'm going to just check the numbers between 1 and 8. When I do 1 or 2 here, this should say 1 or 2. This should say 200. If it's 1 night, it should be 200. If it's 2 nights, it should be 400. So 1 or 2. Well, I didn't put in my nightly cost. Okay, let's just put that in. So TXT nightly cost, all right, dot text, and that's equal to the nightly cost. And I think we want that to be a decimal as well. I forgot my $sign at the beginning. All right, hopefully that fixed it, and hopefully that was the only error that we had in there. Wasn't an error, it was an omission. So 1 or 2, it's still not showing it. Oh, that should be nightly cost, not night stayed. All right, one more time. All right, so 1 or 2, good. 2, 1 or 2, 400, good. Let's just clear it. 3 or 4, 540. 4, 3 or 4, 720. That works. 5 to 7, 160, 800. 6, 5 to 7, 960. 7, 5 to 7, 1120. And finally 8, which should be 145 times 8, which is like 1260 or something like that. Okay, 1160. It all works. So that's the first one. We're going to take a break. When we come back, and I'm going to do this during the break so you don't have to, I don't have to waste any of your time. For the next program that we do, we're going to change this so it has arrays. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this whole thing over during the break. It is 9:05. Let's please come back at 9:15. I'll see you then. I'll be right back. All right, it's 9:15, so let's continue on. So what I have done right now is, wrong one. I copied all of this over, including the code for the clear and the exit buttons. So right now, again, the calculate doesn't do anything. Clear works and exit works. So let's put in the code. All right. So the way that this is going to change now is coming in here. All right. What I had done previously via the use of constants, I'm now going to make arrays. Okay. So I'm going to, just make them both. So the first one will be a decimal, bracket, and I'm going to call it night cost, and call it whatever we'd like, of course, equal. And I'm going to put all those values in there. So they were 200, and then we had 180, and we had 160. And finally, we had 145. Right, so that's the first one. In fact, I can actually just put that right up here. Okay, so that's our first array. Then I'm going to have a string array that I called num nights. And it'll be equal to the same thing that you saw before. In other words, it'll be 1 or 2, 3 or 4, 5 to 7. And the last one, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put this on 2 lines just so it reads a little bit better. And the last one will be 8 or more. All right. So again, now we're using arrays in here, and those array values are going to be used for our nightly cost and for our night string in here. Okay. All right. Much of the program, I could have really copied it in and just made some superficial changes, but I decided not to do it like that. So in my calculate, just like before, all right, the exact same way, I'm going to call my determine night stayed, which of course, again, I'll get an error message because we haven't written it yet, so we'll write that down below it. All right, and the same way we did it before. In fact, just to save a little time, I will copy it in from the other program because it hasn't changed at all. So, in other words, we've got our nights. We attempt to convert whatever we put into that first text box. If it was not able to be converted to an int, we're going to end up having a format exception. If we get down to here, we did put in a number, but if we put in a negative number, all right, it's going to be an argument out of range exception. Now I've got to write this one, and I will in just a second. That's why I'm getting the error. But other than that, it's exactly the same as the last one we just did. This will be an int for the nights. And let's write this one. Now this will be a little bit different. And basically the way that it'll be different, in fact, let me do this. Let me copy the other one in. All right. And then I'll make changes to it so you can see the differences between them. So I've copied the whole thing in. I might get errors, and don't worry if I do, they'll be fixed literally in a matter of minutes. All right, yeah, because we don't have those anymore, but that's okay. All right, again, we've got in here for determining our bill. All right, we've got the nightly cost, the total cost, and the number of strings of the night string. So none of that has changed. That's all exactly the same as it was before. And we're still switching on the number of nights. That's the same. But this is where the stuff is going to change. All right. So the nightly cost will be the number of nights, and it'll be 0. Why? Because what is num? Didn't I call it num nights? I thought I did. Night cost, I'm sorry. So it'll be night cost 0. Okay, let me change that to night cost 0. All right, and our number of night string will be from the other one. So that will be the num nights 0. So we want to fill in 201 or 2, in other words. So again, this will be num nights 0. All right, and now I can just bring this down. So the next one, I just have to change the 0 to a 1, then do it again, and change the 0 to a 2. And finally do it one last time and change that 0 to a 3. All right. So it's basically, again, it is the same program, but now we're utilizing arrays. All right, let's try to run it by using exactly what we used before. All right. Could there be something wrong in here? Of course there could be, but that's why we're going to run it. So, and again, this is the second one, so it should be an orangish color. There it is. Nothing in there. Okay, must be an integer, out of range, must be greater than or equal to 0. Good. 1 or 2, 200, 2, 1 or 2, 400, 3, 3 or 4, 540, 4, 3 or 4, 720, 5 to 7, 160, 5 times 160 is 800, 6, 960, 7, 1120, all right, and 8, 1160. All right, so everything in here appears to still be working. So again, what did we change? Well, previously on the last program, when we came in here, these were all constants. All right, but since we're working with arrays now, all right, since we're working with arrays now, we made them arrays. All right. So again, this is the cost of 1 or 2 nights, the cost of 3 or 4 nights, the cost of 5, 6, or 7 nights, and the cost of 8 or more nights. These were just strings that we put in there. All right, because I wanted to give you array practice. And we changed this before from using our constants to just using our arrays. And if it was the first one, it's array element 0. The second one, it's array element 1. The third one, it's array element 2. And the fourth one, it's array element 3. All right. And we just printed them out like we had done previously. So there's nothing else in there, like I said, that's really new. So let me close this. All right, close that. And let's do the last one in here. That last one, again, is going to be this one here. We're going to do number 3. Move this. All right. Again, it's not a real database, but we're pretending that we have 5 games. I'm not going to read them off. You can see them. Each of the games has a different publisher. Doesn't have to be the case, but that is the case. All right. 2 of the games are $60 each. One game is $20, one is $35, and one is free. All right. So what we want to do is set this up. So we're going to have 3. All right. We are going to end up having 3 different arrays. And now that actually should make sense to everybody. All right. We will have one array that I'm going to call game name, or probably game names, another one called publishers, and another one called prices. Each array, again, they're known as being, what's the word I'm looking for? Parallel arrays, because each array will have 5 values in it. Technically, I could have gotten away with this, and just since we've got 30 or 60 in there twice, but why? It's not hurting anything. So this is basically going to be our interface. You can see how simple it is. It will have just in here, all right, it will have in there a text box and a button that says search, and actually we're going to have the 3 buttons in here, all right? So like I said, in my opinion, at least, this is not very complex. What's going to be different in here is how we do the search. We're going to introduce an array method that I don't think you've seen before. It's not hard. It actually, I think at least, is very intuitive. All right, so let me grab this. All right, and let's create our 3rd project. When you do these, you do not have to write any of them with non-arrays. All of them should use arrays. The only reason I did this first one twice was to show you the difference between creating something using constants and creating something using arrays. All right, that was it. All right, I don't think I have to resize that at all. I'm just going to call this, they said it was a games database. All right, so I'm just going to call it that. So I'm going to rename the form FRM games DB is usually what we use for database. All right, so we've got that. Let's change the background color. And I think I'm going to use turquoise. That looks good. All right. Let's immediately set the start position to center screen. And the other ones, let's see, what did I write in here? Okay. So for the text, I'm just going to put in here homework chapter 8, games DB for database. Okay, so all that's done. All right, I did change it around. I did put a label up on the top here. All right, that's just going to say search term. So let me put that up. Then down below that, I'm going to have, I don't know how big, if I'm going to search for something, how big I want it to be. So I'm going to make it fairly big. You say, I don't know what you mean. Well, I mean this. To make it about that big. All right. Then down below it, I'm going to put a read-only text box that's going to be a multi-line, and that's going to be my results right in there. All right, I'm going to move this up just a bit. That's not too bad. And I'm going to have our 3 buttons that we always have. All right, so I will put in a calculate button here. Make it a little bigger there. Here we go. All right, so there's our interface. Doesn't look great, doesn't look terrible. Let's change the font size. All right, that's not too bad. We might as well lock our controls into place. All right, so this first one that I'm going to center, it's just going to say search term. All right, I'm going to align it. Okay, and I'm going to make it LBL search term, which means this one will be TXT search term. And I'm just going to make this TXT result. All right. Also, I just thought it read a little better, so I'm going to make the background color of this the same color as my label, so I want it to look like that. And this is read only. All right, so just about everything is set up. Got to do our buttons, of course. All right, so everything now is done. Let's set our accept and cancel buttons. So I will set the accept button. Let me move this over so we have plenty of room to look at this. All right, our accept button will be our calculate button. Our cancel button will be our clear button. We've already set this to run on the center screen, so that's good. Let's set our tab order, which will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, I didn't want to do that, so let's get rid of that. All right. Get rid of that now, and we're good. Okay. Get rid of that. I'm going to put that comment in just a moment. All right, as well, just to try to put a little bit of documentation in here. All right, so we're going to have our calculate button, our clear button, and our exit button. I don't think I did set the tab order, so let's do that. View tab order, be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the only thing, what do I want to have happen? All right, when we clear, well, I want that to clear, I want that to clear, and I want the cursor to go right there. So that's pretty simple. So txt search term dot text equal nothing, txt result dot text equal nothing, and txt search term dot focus. So there's that one. Whoops. For this, for the exit, again, I'm just going to copy in what we have been using. All right, so all of that should now be working. All right, before I test that, I want to come into here and put in that comment. So create a searchable database for a video store. As it even said in here, hint, you might want to look at these things. All right. The user can search by either the name of the game or by the game's publisher. That's the first thing. Okay, second. Whoops. The user should be able to perform partial word searches, and they even give an example here. So if you put in Mario, it should find Super Mario Odyssey. Okay, get rid of those. All right. If a game is found, then the game will display the information about the game. In other words, it'll show the name of the game, the publisher of the game, and the price of the game. The search should be case insensitive, so I can put Mario, for example, in all uppercase, all lowercase, or mix it any way I want. If the game is not found, it'll display the error message shown, which is just game not found. All right, and then finally, add working clear and exit buttons as shown in the second figure. We've already done that. All right. So this is going to be the setup here. Move these over a bit. If that's not enough room, I'll move it again. So Player Unknowns Battlegrounds. I'm going to get rid of that thing. Just have it say blue, oops. Have it say blue hole here, so. And the price, it's kind of a little more than I need to go push it over, I think. Will be $35. Okay. The second one, as it says, will be League of Legends from Riot Games, and it's free. The third one will be Call of Duty Black Ops 3 from Activision, and it'll be $60. The fourth one will be Battlefield 4 from Electronic Arts. I'm going to get rid of that EA. All right. And finally, we will have Super Mario Odyssey from Nintendo, and that will be $60. All right. All right, so that's at least a little bit of internal documentation there. All right, so we've come in, we've created everything, so we're basically up to the point now where we can put in our code. All right, the only thing I'd mention to you is if you look here, so this is what we want: name, a tab, and then the name of the game. Publisher, a tab, the name of the publisher. Price, the tab, the name of the price, the price. And that'll be based on this if it has a match. If it doesn't find a match, it's just going to say game not found in all three things. Okay. All right. So to start with, I did create, I created 4 constants. They're all strings. First one is GNF, and it's equal to game not found. Exactly what they showed in our handout here. The second one, just gave it N, and I set it equal to name followed by a tab. All right. The next one will be pub for publisher. Again, with a tab after it. And the last one will be price. I just call it PR. And that has 2 tabs after it, just so that is just for lining stuff up a little bit. That's all. All right, so those are my program constants. Then I created 3 different arrays. All right, so first array, and again, typically when you do this, let's see if I did it the right way or if I screwed it up previously. So let me look real quick in here. These really should be pluralized. By default, arrays typically are going to be pluralized. And why am I harping on something like that? Well, those of you who for your next class, we'll take the 1115 class probably, or when everybody takes it. You're going to be doing some work where things are going to be created for you automatically. And sometimes it's going to expect things to be pluralized and sometimes singularized. Usually when I create an array, because it's going to typically hold multiple things, I put an S on the end. All right. Now, did that cause any errors in here? Of course it did. All right, I think that was it over to the errors. All right, let me get rid of this. And let me get rid of this, and let's just get going then. All right, so I've got a string array here that I called game names. All right. And again, there's 5 of them. So I put this on multiple lines. You can see how the editor just moves all this stuff over all the time. I don't like that. I like it like this. You could put it any way you wanted. So player unknowns battlegrounds. Right, I think we left it like that here. Player unknowns battlegrounds. Good. All right, the second one, in fact, why don't I do that? The third one. Good gravy, come on. So there will be, that's because I put a comma there. All right, so this will be the second one. This will be the third one. This will be the fourth one. And this will be the fifth one. All right, and I only did that because I've already got them here so I can copy them in. So there's League of Legends. There is Call of Duty Black Ops 3. There is Battlefield 4. And finally, I think it was Super Mario Odyssey. You have to put a semicolon at the end because this is a variable that we just created. All right, so there's our game names. I'm going to have another one, bracket, bracket, that I'm going to call publishers. And just like we just did here, in fact, let's bring this in. All right, I'm going to change them, of course. So this first one is Bluehole. The second one is Riot Games. And I know I've mentioned this before. You don't have to put these on multiple lines like I did. All right, you don't have to do that. Then Activision. Followed by Electronic Arts. And then finally, Nintendo. All right, so there's my second one. So finally, I'll have a string. I'm sorry, it's a decimal. Call prices. All right. And that'll be equal to. And I'm going to, again, just copy all this in, even though there's not strings. I'm going to anyway. All right, so we've got 35, 0, 60, 20, 60. So 35, 0, 35, 0, 60, 20, 60. Right, I get rid of all this. And, oh, oh, Jeff. One thing you can count on with me is if it's possible for me to screw something up, I will do it. So let's just change these. This will become decimal and it will become prices. This will be a string and it'll be called publishers. All right. It doesn't matter the order in which we put the arrays, not at all. All right. So now we've got our 3 arrays. Okay. And we've done our clear. We've done our exit. So those are done. So all that's left is to calculate. Okay. So I'm going to do a bool in here with my keep going. And I'm going to set it equal to check for no input, because it's possible they left that blank and then click the button to search. I call it calculate. I really should have called that search, but it's okay. If keep going, that means there was something that we're searching for. We'll just call perform the search. All right, now I've got 2 errors in here. Let's just get rid of those errors quickly. So private, this will be a bool, and it'll be check for no input. All right, and the other one will be a private void, and it'll be a perform the search. All right, so this one is giving us an error, of course, because we're not returning anything. All right, so we're just looking for this being empty. Okay, so let's do bool retval equal true, and string, I'm just going to call it term. It's the search term, and that's going to be equal to txt search term dot text dot trim. All right, if term is empty, so if it equals nothing, well, we want to show an error message. You must enter a search term, and the title will just be search term left empty. All right, if that does happen, we'll just clear the form. We shouldn't have to, but I will anyway. So clear form and retval equal false. All right. Now, if that wasn't the case, I'll come down here. So I'll just return retval. Okay. Now I am going to put in here, this is just a very simple stub. So I'm just going to put in here a show error message. And I'm going to say in here, got to perform the search function. Okay. And then I'm just going to put a message in that says there was a search term. I'm going to get rid of this in just a minute. All right. So now I can run that part. So I'm going to save it. Let's make sure that is our active project. With nothing in there. Search term left empty. You must enter a search term. Okay, we're back here. And if I do put something in there, there's my stub. There was a search term entered, got to the function. Okay, so far, at least, as far as I can tell, it's working. All right, I'm going to take both of these 2 fields here, and I'm going to, may not look that great. Well, you can always change it if you want to, I suppose, but I'm going to take both of these and center them. Okay, all right. So we come in here and we're seeing whether or not there was input. If there was input, meaning check for no input, return true, we'll call perform the search. Otherwise, we're at the bottom of the routine anyway, so we'll just return. And in the check for no input that's right here, this is the whole thing. All right. That string term equals, we're grabbing what's in that top text box and we're checking to see if it's empty. We could have done this also with a try catch. We could have used an is present. It was fairly simple, so I just did it like this. All right. So we're down to performing the search now. All right, so that's really all that's left. So I'm going to clear this out. We, of course, don't need that. And let's start writing it. Just like before, I'm going to grab this, the term. I could have made that global if I wanted to, but I didn't. All right. So that's the term I'm going to search for. I'm also going to have a Boolean variable here that's called is found. And I'm going to set that equal to false. I'm going to assume that my search term was not found. All right. If my search term is not found, I'm going to return -1. So I'm going to make another variable here that I'm going to call index number, and I'm going to set that equal to -1. Again, there are umpteen ways of doing this. This is the way I decided to do it. Finally, I'm going to have a string, which is going to be my output str, and that's equal to nothing. That's where I'm going to write all of my results. That's the stuff that hopefully will appear in just a few minutes, either like this or like this. All right, so that's what I'm searching, or what I'm hoping for at least. All right. Now I do want to show you something, and I'm not sure if this is going to work or not, but I'm going to try it anyway. All right, and that is I'm going to go back here, and this button that's called calculate, I'm going to change the name of it up here to BTN search, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to change it down here so it says search as well. Now to do that, since I changed the name, to be sure, I'm going to go back and I'm going to reset my tab order. Again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like it was still okay. All right, and view tab order. And now I'm going to go back to here. And notice it did not change this. It's still called BTN calculate. All right, I don't want that. I want that to be search. And I have no idea when I do this later, if I run it, if it's going to give me an error. It is. All right, and it's giving me an error. So let's take a quick look at it. And it says in here, when you look, this is still called BTN calculate. See that? It's got search here, but it doesn't have search there. This is one time where I am going to manually come into this form design file and change it like that. My error now went away in here, and let's see if I run the program, if it still works. Okay, and it appears as though it does. I haven't done the searching yet. Now, what I just showed you is something really you shouldn't do, but I showed it to you because it's something you can do. All right. Sometimes when you do that, though, it'll lock the machine up and you'll get an error message. And I've shown you this in the past. All right. Always, always, always make sure before you go and start changing stuff like that around. And I didn't, but I should have. Make sure you do a save all first. All right. It's just good, proper like procedure. All right, so we checked for our no input. Now we're in here, but we're not doing anything in here yet. So let's start. All right. So let's imagine for a minute that I typed in here NIN, short for Nintendo. All right. Then what I want the system to do is I want it to search, and I want it to search this array with my names and this array with my publishers to see if it can find NIN in either one of those. This is not going to return every existence. It's just going to be the first one that it finds. So notice this is blue hole here. If this had been, let's just say, for example, blue grass here, it's going to return blue hole if all we put in is blue. If we want, we can put in the whole thing. So blue hole would return this. And if this was blue grass, it would return this. All right. So this is a little bit ugly, but this is the we're going to put in a for loop. And I can say any of the arrays because they're all the same size here. But now I want to perform the search. So I want to search, all right, either or both the game names and the publishers array looking for a match. All right. Now, like I said, not terrible, but it's a little bit ugly. So if game names LCV, but I want to make sure because notice how this is put in. It's in title text. In other words, there's some capital letters, there's some lowercase letters. I have no guarantee that the person, when they put in Nintendo, isn't going to put it all in an uppercase or lowercase. So what I did in here was I took the current game that I'm looking at and I did a .2 lower. Now, what's new here is this, dot contains. And I'm looking for my search term. Or the same thing, but in publishers. Okay, so this is checking both. So I'm going to leave that up there for a second. If you need to, copy it. All right, hit the print screen button on your machine or whatever. This says I am checking the current entry in my game names in lowercase to see if it contains that search term that I put in. All right, this thing, whatever we put in there. And if it goes through that one, so it's going to first check this. Oops, it's first going to check this. And if it's not there, so let's say I did put in NIN for Nintendo. Then next it's going to check this. Still doesn't find it. It checks here. It checks here. Still doesn't find it. It goes here. Then here. Still doesn't find it. It goes here. Then here. Still doesn't find it. It goes here. Ding, ding, ding. It found it. If I put hello in there, it's going to be 1120011223344, and it won't find it. So we want it to return then this, game not found. All right. Okay. So if it does find it, well, we want to take our Boolean variable called isFound that was set to false and set it to true. And we want the index number. So index number, which was -1, is equal to LCV. So index number, if it finds it, will be either 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. It'll be one of those values. All right. Now, what else do I want to do? I want to get the hell out of here. So I'm going to type in break, which is going to get me out. So that is if it's found. If I get down to the bottom, I'm going to fall out of the for loop and it won't be found. All right. Since it won't be found, we didn't do this code. So isFound will still be false. Index number will still be -1. All right. So we can come down here now and check and say if isFound. In other words, if there was a match. We found a match. So if that's the case, I'm going to start filling up my output string. Output str plus equal, and I used string interpolation here. N, that's the name, remember. And then game names. Oops, sorry. Try that again. Game names. Index number. Let's make this a little bit easier. We don't have to call it index number, so let's just call it I. All right, just so that we have less typing to do. So that'll be I. Then this will be I. In fact, IND, so you have some kind of an idea what it's about. So IND, and this now will be IND. And then this can be IND. All right. And let's see. So that'll be that's going to end up string plus equal. What the heck happened there? I don't know. All right. T end the game. And then a \r \n. All right. I want that to go on its own line. Okay. And I did not put in there my ending early. There we go. All right, so this line right here, this line is going to print out something. Whoops, not in there. Oh, that didn't look good. This line that's here is going to print out something like name Call of Duty Black Ops 3. All right, so we've got our first one in there. Let me get rid of that. Then the second one, all right, remember we call this pub for the publisher, and this will be publishers. All right. Like here. Okay, I don't know why that's there, but it is. There we go. And then finally, we'll do it one more time, and that will be for our price. I think we just call it PR. And this will be prices. Okay. And I think that's everything. All right. We haven't told it to print yet, but that's okay. We are going to put an else in here in just a minute. All right. And what we'll want it to say for all three of those is game not found. So this will just be GNF, game not found. This will be GNF for game not found. And this will be GNF for game not found. All right. Now the only thing left to do is to actually print my output string. So txt results dot text, or I said result, I guess, dot text equals our output string. I think that's everything. Let's try it. And let's try it by using something that we know is going to work or should work. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in Call of Duty, and we're going to see if we get this stuff. Call of Duty. Search. Okay, it's saying not found. All right, there's an error. Also, it looks a little junky in here. I guess I should make that a little bigger, but that's fine. We'll fix that in a moment. All right, so let's see if we can figure out why this didn't work. If is found, and it should have been found, unless I spelled it wrong, and I don't think I did. Oh, I think to be sure, I'm going to say term dot to lower. That may have been the problem. I don't know. All right, so let's go and look at that. And I'm just going to put in call for Call of Duty. All right, so this has got to be a little wider, or I could just left justify this, but it looks like it's working. So let's go back to this, and I'm not going to center this. I'm just going to left justify it. All right, let's try it again. Call. Okay. Black Ops 3. I've got a tab in there. I'm going to get rid of that tab too. And let's try Nintendo. Looks like it's working. Okay. All right, so let me get rid of, because I made it left justified to try to make it hopefully look a little bit nicer. So let's try it one more time. Let's put in something we know isn't in there. Okay, I need one more tab here, it looks like, but that's fine. Nin for Nintendo, looks good. Call for Call of Duty Black Ops. There was one that was called Electronic Arts. So there's that. So it looks like I said, like it's working. Notice if I put in arts and put in another S, it's not found. It's working the way it should work. All right. So let's put in one tab right here. Run it one more time. NIN for Nintendo. Well, it looks like it still has to go over. I'll fix that later. I'm not worried about it. All right. And if it doesn't find anything, okay. So let's take a look at the entire program. All right. If you want to, feel free to do a screen or a screen capture on it by hitting your print screen key. But I want to take it from the top and then we're done. So we'll be done in about 10 minutes or so, maybe even less. So hopefully now everybody understands what you were supposed to do. These were our inputs. We made those into 3 arrays. One array that contains the name of each game, one array that contains the publisher for each game, and one array that contained the price for each game. All right, those were down here. Game names, prices, publishers. I could have called them game names, game prices, excuse me, and game publishers. You know, it's not that big a thing, to be honest with you. GNF was game not found, N for the name, pub for the publisher, PR for the price. All right, again, just to try to get these things a little bit lined up better. Maybe if I put the T there, it would work. I don't know. All right. So the first thing we did was we checked for no input, because if we have no input, there's no sense in going on. So as I've been doing quite often this semester, I made a variable, a Boolean variable called keep going, that I set equal to check for no input, meaning check for no input must return a Boolean. If it returned true, I call perform the search. If it doesn't, I'm right at the end of the routine anyway, so I'm just going to return. All right. The check for no input, pretty simple. I've got my ret val, my return value. Again, I didn't have to do it like this. I could have just returned false here and returned true there. But I was always taught that you should try, if possible, to only have one return statement in a routine, just because it makes it typically easier to debug. That's why I made this ret val. And this is the search term itself. If that term is empty, we showed a message that says you must enter a search term, and it's got a title of search term left empty. We cleared it just in case there's any junk, all right, in there, and we set our ret val to false. So either we do this, then this, and if this is true, we do all this and return false, or we do this, we check this, it's not empty, so we return ret val in its original value of true. All right. Then we come in and we perform the search. This is, like I said, a little bit new, and it's some stuff we had not done previously. All right. So We perform the search. Term is going to be the search, whatever we put into that text box. Is found is a Boolean variable that we're assuming is false. IND is the index. It's which one of these contains the search term. -1 is going to be returned if it doesn't find anything. Don't make that 0, because it would be then it would return the first element. And this is the output string that we're going to put everything into. Then we've got our for loop right here. So we're looping through both the game names and the publishers arrays, looking for a match. All right. Could we also go through the prices array? The answer is yes. But then remember, those are decimals, so we have to check it differently. All right. If we do find a match, that means if that's right there is true, we set our Boolean is found variable to true. We need to know exactly which array element that was. So we set IND, which is the current array element, to LCV, our loop control variable, and we get the heck out. When we get the heck out, we're just going to fall out of the for loop. We're not going to leave the routine. All right. So again, if we said nin, that's Nintendo, it's going to search everything until it finds it at the end, then jumps out. We said hello, it's going to search all of it, not find it, and then get out. All right, so now we're checking to see. All right, so we found a match. And this one would be, there was no match. So if we find a match, we're putting the name followed by the current name, the publisher followed by the current publisher, and the price followed by the current price. If there was no match, we're saying name, game not found, publisher, game not found, and price, game not found. Finally, we're taking that output string that we've been building in here, and we set it equal to here. Just wanted to see if by putting that one backslash in there, if that fixed it. Okay, so that looks a little better in my opinion. All righty. And if there was nothing, there we go. And it looks like I got a T there for some reason, so I'll have to fix that. All right. So that is what I had then for today. Tomorrow will be a lab period for the entire period. Again, if you did not hear this at the beginning of the lecture, I have graded what I have found for all of your work, and your grade sheets out on Inside Rankin should be updated. If you disagree with that, then please just make sure, if you do that, please just make sure, there's a problem right there. Okay. That, like I said, if there is some kind of a problem, let me know. That's all I'm asking, is just let me know. All right. But to my knowledge, everything is now up to date. All right. Could I be wrong? Of course I could. And I keep screwing this up. So. All right. And tomorrow will be lab for the entire period. You won't get any email from me. You won't get anything from me. I will be online between 8 a.m. and noon. All right. And I'll be online intermittently after that and this weekend. All right. Monday, remember, there are no classes because Rankin is closed in observance of President's Day. And finally, Tuesday when you come in, okay, Tuesday when you come in, you will get the test. I will send it out at 7. There will be one problem on it that will be very similar to the one we just did here. There will be another problem which will be much, much, much simpler, but will involve the use of lists. So you might want to have this one up and that list one that we looked at the beginning of the period to give you some help with that. All right. Also, since this was new, all right, since what we're doing in here was new, the other thing that you might want to be cognizant of is, again, going out to learnmicrosoft.com and coming in here, C# array class, and that gives you all the different, somewhere in here it is. All right. And that'll give you that. And then you might want to look up the list class also. All right. And finally, last thing I want to say is if you do have questions when you're taking the test on Tuesday, feel free to email me. All right. Don't come in and say, hey, I've got this pretty much done. What would you give me on it for a grade right now? I don't answer questions like that. All right. Finally, and this is the last thing, if your grade in the class, according to my records, is still below a C, so if it's below 74.5, then I will be sending out one of those early alert messages on you today. And you might even be getting a call from our student success counselor, Emily Mabry, whatever it is, I don't remember. I think it's Malaby. All right. So with that, have a good weekend, and I will talk to you now on Tuesday. Thanks.